Hi everyone. If anyone's sensitive to photos of animals, this might not be for you. So when it comes to food, I have a bit of a history of going to extremes. I don't bake cupcakes for coworkers' birthdays, I bake chocolate eclairs. And I have a sourdough starter that I maintain at home. I've made my own goat's milk yogurt, starting with milking the goat. And this is a picture of my 2011 Thanksgiving turkey. So it wasn't that big a surprise when last year I just started working for Craft Butchery in Westport. Or maybe it was, since I'd been actually a vegetarian off and on since college, when I learned that eating meat is just about the worst possible thing you can do for your carbon footprint. And that's because 99% of the animals we eat in the United States today come from factory farms, which are a bigger contributor to global warming than all transportation in the world combined. But I could never stick with vegetarianism for a couple reasons. This is my grandma. And for me, eating the food that she makes me, whether or not it has meat in it, is way more important than my values about sourcing. It's about connection, it's about family. Second, as an athlete, I found it difficult to stay healthy and active and strong without eating animal products. Everybody's body is different, but I do include dairy and eggs into that statement because they're really heavily reliant on the meat industry to get rid of the male animals, which are not very useful for eggs or dairy. And finally, being vegetarian kind of felt like a cop-out. Global meat consumption has increased 82% since 1961, and it's not slowing down. So what good was I doing by opting out of meat entirely rather than supporting those people raising it properly? So what we call factory farms, the government calls CAFOs, concentrated animal feeding operations. And as the name implies, the goals of a CAFO are animal density and weight gain. So they're really crammed in there. They're fed a high-calorie diet that often includes manure and other animal parts. And of the 63 million pounds of antibiotics used in the United States each year, the vast majority go for non-therapeutic uses in CAFOs. That means no animal is actually sick. They're quote-unquote preventative, but they end up actually creating superbugs because they're given at such low doses. Smithfield Farms is America's largest hog producer with 31 million hogs, and their earnings sound really impressive until you consider the cost that they're externalizing to the public in the form of 84 billion pounds of shit that they dump into the environment every year, and the diseases in local communities because of that. CAFOs harm animals. These are animals that have been pumped so full of hormones that they can't stand because of the weight of their milk, but it's fine because everybody else is doing it. So, as you can imagine, cramming diseased, deformed animals together is not very healthy, and scientists have been able to trace 6 out of the 8 genetic segments of the worst virus in the world directly back to US factory farms. So this is a big problem. This is not an extremist issue. This is something that we all need to care about. It affects our dignity, it affects our health, it affects our land. So what's the alternative? The alternative is local butcher shops, such as Craft Butchery, where business is based on transparency, trust, and quality. A real butcher, the guy at Stop and Shop is not a butcher. A man, he does not cut his meat. It's cut by a machine, it's sent to him in boxes. At a real butcher shop, our meat comes from animals, and they look like animals when they arrive, and we don't make any effort to hide that from our customers because we think it's important that you know that something died for your meal. It's not an easy concept, but it's not supposed to be. At a real butcher shop, meat comes from animals. This is Mark Maynard. He owns a farm called Ox Hollow in Roxbury. He raises black Angus steer. They eat grass. They're never fed antibiotics. They're never fed hormones. They're never fed animal byproducts. New customers are often upset with us because we're always out of tenderloin. But if you look at this diagram, you'll see that there's actually only 10 pounds of tenderloin on a 1,500-pound animal. It would be really creepy if we were never out of tenderloin. So meat is a really valuable, limited resource at a butcher shop. So what can you do to be an ethical omnivore? The most important thing is actually to eat less meat. And that sounds really weird coming from a butcher, but I mean it. You should be spending more money, perhaps, on higher quality meat less often. Then the next point is to ask questions. You don't need to ask about the chicken's friends to let restaurants know that you care about the sourcing, but you do need to say something. And finally, vote with your dollar. As consumers, the best way that you can let people know you care is by spending money on products and services that are doing things correctly. Legislation is a long, slow road, and your money can get a lot done. So local butcher shops such as Craft Butchery are springing up all over the country, and you should seek them out and support them. You know, the food system has a lot of problems with it. It's not going to get fixed in a day, but if we all take small steps, slowly the tides will change. So thank you.